Welcome, everybody. So good to see all of you. Folks are trickling in. If you haven't already, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, where you're calling in from, and what or who brought you here tonight. Feel free to share what you're excited to learn or why you want to take action to stop the toxic Line 3 pipeline. My name is Selekshna. I use she, her pronouns, and I organize with 350 Seattle and Rainforest Action Network. I'll be one of your MCs for tonight. I am calling in from occupied Duwamish and Coast Salish territory, though my background is not around here. These are wild rice paddies on Anishinaabe land that are being threatened by the Line 3 pipeline. Before we dive into everything, maybe we can flip to the next slide real quick. Want to uplift the song that we just heard, which is Black Snakes by Prolific the Rapper and a tribe called Red. Big thanks to Prolific for giving us permission to share that powerful song, which was written about the resistance to the Dakota Access Pipeline at Standing Rock. So, few quick tech notes. Ooh, we're up to almost 60 people here. That's great. We have closed captioning for this event, where you see it says kind of live at the top of the screen. We're not actually live anywhere other than here, but that allows us to have closed captions. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that says closed caption. Click on that and you can turn it on and off or view a full transcript of this event. Feel free to use the chat. Everyone will be muted during the call just because there are so many of us. But we welcome questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. And just wanted to say we'll be sending around a recording of this, the slide deck, links that speakers share. So you don't have to save everything. You will have copies of this in your inbox if you're registered. And if you're here, you've probably registered. And I think with all that boring stuff out of the way, I'm going to pass it over to my friend and co-host, Rachel Heaton, to ground us and kick us off.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rachel Heaton, and I am a Muckleshoot tribal member, and I am on here from Duwamish lands. And just wanting to tell everybody to take a moment in the chat, just to acknowledge the lands that you're on. I think it's important that we ground ourselves in this way and always acknowledge the first people of the nations that we're surrounded by, or in the lands that we're on, because all lands on Turtle Island are stolen lands. So by acknowledging them, it's more than just saying a name. It's acknowledging a way of life. It's acknowledging people that are still here, and which ties in exactly why we're here tonight to talk about this fundraiser. When we talk about the devastation that's happening to these rice beds that we are talking about, the sacred lands and waters that this pipeline will cross. And so, you can also go to, I have it on here. If you go to, where did I lose my note? What is that website? There's a website. Oh, you can go to native-land.ca, and that's also a site that you can go to. So if you don't know the lands that you're actually occupying, that's a website, and that will be in the chat also, where you can go and check on that. I think it's important that everybody know that the lands that they're on. And just to give everybody some background to what we're talking about tonight. We are discussing the Line 3 pipeline. It is a massive tar sands pipeline that threatens to cut across sacred lakes, untouched wetlands, and treaty protected wild rice beds, carrying nearly 1 million barrels of dirty tar sands crude oil per day. If built, the pipeline would unlock emissions equivalent to building 50 new coal power plants. That's more than double the total annual climate pollution emitted in the entire state of Washington. For over 7 years now, Indigenous water protectors have been bringing attention to the devastation this pipeline will cause if completed. And for the last several months now, water protectors and allies on Anishinaabe lands, which most people know as Minnesota, they have been putting their bodies on the line and chaining themselves to the pipeline itself, to excavators, to bulldozers, anything that is going to bring attention to stopping this pipeline. Before we move to our incredible lineup of speakers tonight, which will actually share more information about this, we want to share a short video with all of you from a recent action that was led by the GNU Collective, and to give you a sense of what's happening day after day on the ground. GNU Collective is led by Indigenous women and Two-Spirit folks, and tonight you will get a chance to hear from some of them. And these folks are also organizing direct actions to halt Line 3. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and she's going to be showing us a video.
Stop line 3! Stop line 3! Stop line 3! Stop line 3! So we're currently at an Enbridge fueling station. This is where all the equipment and all of that is fueled up to go out and destroy our beautiful territory here at Anishinaabe King. We've got some brave folks here who are blockading the entrances to this work site and to this fueling station. Yeah, we're just trying to get in the way and cause as much delay and cost for Enbridge as we can.
I'm locked down to a barrel and they're going to be here all day long. I have hand warmers in my pockets and in my mittens and in my boots.
Got folks over there who have been playing music and sharing beautiful songs through the morning, and folks here who are obviously taking risks to stand with Anishinaabe people.
We thought it would be fun to have a piano in lockdown. Frozen into the ground here. And we got a good piano player, that always helps. We're here in the defense of life. We're here to honor the treaties. We're here to stop this insane extraction of life. And we're doing it as a celebration for life.
So as long as we remain here, that construction can go forward.
I am here fighting against Line 3 with Anishinaabe leadership to prevent this disastrous pipeline from being built across 330 miles of wilderness and Anishinaabe treaty territory. We don't need tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada. It's not even supporting the people of Minnesota or the United States.
For me, it's really about Indigenous sovereignty, and it's about climate justice, and it's about protecting the water. The message for President Biden is pretty simple. It's time that just as you revoke the permit for Keystone XL to revoke the 404 water quality permits for Line 3.
We gotta protect our water. We gotta protect the mother. We gotta stand together. And just cause as much trouble as we can.
If you don't feel like you know how to get involved, if you feel like you don't know what to do or how to contribute or how to support, here is a way you can support. There are ways you can throw your voice into the mix, that you can use your agency and use your power and use your beauty to share and protect this beautiful territory. Please support us. Please join us. You're welcome.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Lisa. So great video, and just so that everyone's aware, you know, over 130 people have been arrested resisting Line 3, and so which is, you know, another reason that these fundraisers like tonight are so important, is because it helps with so many other things than just supplies. It helps with legal fees and just a number of things, and you guys will hear how, you know, how contributing to this helps in such a major way. So to go ahead and get started, we're gonna go ahead and have our first guest, Tasha Martino, who is going to be sharing a bit with us about what's going on right now on Line 3. Tasha Martino is a Two-Spirit Indigenous anarchist, a Fond du Lac Anishinaabe, and the co-founder of Gitchagumi Scouts and the founder of Line 3 Resistant Camp Mckibben. So I'm going to turn it over to Tasha, and she's going to share more with you.
Bonjour, Tabiki Giza Skijikwe, Nindishnakas Nagachi Wanang, Indunjiba, Magizi Doram. Hello everyone, my name's Tasha Martino. I go by they, them. I'm a Two-Spirit Indigenous anarchist from the Fond du Lac Reservation, and I'm in open opposition of the Line 3 pipeline. I'm so happy to be here today and sharing space with all of you amazing people who are, finding ways to contribute to the movement and doing your part to call for divestment. When companies like Enbridge build infrastructure such as Line 3, Line 4, and Line 5, the statistics that Indigenous women face are increased by 22%. So what that means is before that increase, we were taught 1 in 3. 1 in 3 will go missing, be murdered, or be sexually assaulted before the age of 15. So with that 22% increase, our communities are truly at risk. Just recently in Itasca County, 7 men were busted for sex trafficking. 2 of them were proved to have worked on the Line 3 project as subcontractors with Precision Pipeline. Line 3 isn't just a risk to the environment, the water, and the wild rice. It's also a risk to our women, our children, and our communities. So I want to thank everyone who's here today doing their part to get involved. Because when you join Indigenous resistance and you help uplift our voices, there's no words to express our gratitude for that, because by utilizing your privilege and uplifting the voices of those oppressed, you're truly standing in solidarity with people who have been here for thousands of years, and hopefully as we continue the fight, we'll be able to meet one another and be here together for thousands of more years as we work towards, a just transition and a safer, more sustainable future for all of our children and future children and grandchildren. Recently, there's been so many arrests. People are literally putting their bodies on the line, locking down the machinery, climbing into trenches, standing in front of these machines so that they can't move. There's been blockades, soft blockades. There's been all sorts of direct action, but you don't have to be frontline to be a part of this fight. And if you're interested in getting involved, please feel free to contact Camp McGeezy, and we'll find a way to plug you in. Oh, I pressed a button. I didn't know what happened. There's a multitude of ways people can get involved. You can come out to the camps, you can be frontline, you can engage in direct action, or you can call the governor, Tim Walz, and ask that, pressure him to revoke the permits. There's a multitude of ways that people can get involved, and you don't always have to be frontline to be a warrior. Just by sharing the story of what Line 3 is about and the resistance that's ongoing, you're helping. So there's so many different forms of resistance. There's so many different tools of opposition when it comes to, how we stop these things, how we stop these pipelines and the continued genocide of Indigenous people, because it's not just about a pipeline, like our culture, our way of life is at risk. So for everyone here today, I want to say Chi-miigwech, thank you so much for being here today. And I guess that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you so much, Tasha, for being on here. And, hearing your words is so familiar for a lot of us who, were part of the, fight for, at Standing Rock. And, February being such a monumentous month, amongst all of this, we're still, all of these years later, still fighting pipelines. So, to hear, these amazing people that we have on the front lines, thank you for sharing your information. And again, in the chat, any of the links that she's discussed will be in there, and also for our other speakers. And so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Selectiona.
Thank you, Tasha. Really inspiring to hear how you and Camp McGeezy have been holding down the front lines in the midst of everything going on. And sure, it is very cold there, and hearing about police surveillance, and sending lots of love and gratitude your way. So today we are having a teach-in and a fundraiser. So we are raising money for Tasha and Camp McGeezy and the GNU Collective from that video that we played earlier. And every dollar that you donate today will go directly to supporting the fight on the front lines. Aki just put a link in the chat there, and we should have something up on the screen, though maybe we're running into some technical issues. I'm just seeing a blank thing, but that could be my computer. So yeah, every dollar that you donate will go to supporting the front lines. That means buying wood to heat fires to stay warm, food, cameras and video equipment to document what's happening, legal fees to support, the hundreds of people that are putting their bodies on the line and being criminalized for standing up for treaty rights and for the water. And all the other expenses that come with taking on a massive fossil fuel corporation. So, as we've heard, construction is plowing ahead and Enbridge is hoping to finish by June. I think, feeling hope that we won't let that happen, and folks on the front lines are holding down the fight. But now is the time to really give and give generously if you are able to. Here's the link, bit.ly/350S line 3 fund. This is going through 350 Seattle Action, but 100% of the donations will be going to Mckibben and GNU. If you can only give $2, we welcome your $2. If you have some extra cash and can throw in $20 or 100 or 200, we encourage you to do so. This is really a critical moment in the fight against this project. So if you have the resources and, to spare, if you're kind of in that position of comfort right now and you can send $5,000, please do so. Our goal for this evening is to raise $5,000. So if someone does that, we can all go home early. Just kidding. But yeah, we really kind of encourage you to donate. If you need something to sweeten the deal, we'll be entering people in to win some special Stop Line 3 swag. So if you donate $15 or more, you'll get entered to win these really cool stickers made by some college student activists in Minnesota. If you donate $75 or more, you'll get entered to win this beautiful Water is Life, Defend the Sacred t-shirt, which I'm wearing right now. Also, us buying these t-shirts benefits the Wet'suwet'en folks who are fighting the Coastal GasLink pipeline up north of here in so-called British Columbia. It is yet another massive pipeline that's being rammed through without Indigenous consent. And these were designed by Onion Head. And then if you donate $150 or more, we have a No Pipelines on Indigenous Land print, which was created by Dylan A.T. Miner. If you want to follow those artists, we have information there. So we'll have a few winners for each category. And the more you donate, the more likely you are to win some of this swag. Also wanted to share, donating is not the only way that you can get involved, as Tasha said. Another way is to support frontline media, following and sharing folks, posts from the front lines to get the word out about what's happening. So on the next slide, we have a whole bunch of links that we wanted to share with you all, and we will send these around. I'm getting a note that we're at more than $1,000 donated, maybe 1,200. I need to refresh the page. Let's see. 1,350 already. That's amazing. Thank you. And we'll have some time later on to come back to this. So you're not off the hook yet. But with that, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker. I think some of you may know who he is, the folks that are involved with 350 in the audience. But Bill Mckibben is an author, environmentalist, co-founder of 350.org. And yeah, honored to welcome him here to share a bit more about kind of this fight in the context of pipeline fights and the finance angle. So over to you, Bill. Thank you.
Well, Selectina, thank you so much for all your good work. And it is quite nice to see you standing in the rice fields there. Is really good. It's a great pleasure to join everybody at Seattle 350. If my voice is flagging a little bit, it's because though I'm here in Vermont in Abenaki territory, I've spent the night so far first in Canada, giving a talk to all kinds of people up on the who are working where all this stuff is coming from, up trying to block the tar sands. And then I just got off doing an hour's talk with your colleagues at 350 Minnesota, where this pipeline is headed and where they're working hard to slow it down. And so now I guess I've moved a time zone or two back west, and I'm getting virtual jet lag in Seattle, where you guys are going to figure out how to stop all this, how to get the money that's a big part of this fight, and also rally all the other opposition that we need. This thing's a big deal. The eyes of the world are really on this. People are paying enormous attention. It is a tragedy, one of many tragedies that go with this pandemic, that most of us can't actually be there in Minnesota to stand in the way. We can't because we're serious about, protecting people's health. The last thing that everybody needs there is people getting community sick. It's one of the reasons why it's so incredibly irresponsible of Governor Walz to have allowed this construction to begin when it did. But there are great people there, and what a pleasure to watch Tasha and to get to see old friends like Tara Huska on the video, because they're people of enormous talent and power. They're doing this work on the front line. So our job is to back them up and make sure that they have what they need in order to get this done. It may seem to some of you like we've been fighting pipelines a long time, and we have. And it's a lot of the same people, It was Indigenous activists working north of the border that first turned me on 12, 15 years ago to what was happening in the tar sands, and helped me sort of help get the climate movement involved in the original of these battles, the fight against the Keystone Pipeline. And as you all know, that one we've checked off the list. We've hardly had time to have a party about it, but maybe we'll just combine them all when we beat all these things. But that was a huge deal. When we started the fight against Keystone Pipeline, no one thought there was any chance to stand up to the oil industry. It had never been beaten on this kind of thing. And then people came together in remarkable ways. And not only did they beat Keystone, but they started taking on everything, every pipeline, every frac well, every LNG port, and you know how many of these battles we've managed to win. Those of you there in Seattle drew that thin green line that stopped one project after another from happening along the Pacific coast. They were going to build 6 deep water coal ports, and they're not going to build any of them now. On and on and on. So these are winnable fights, and they're fights we have to win because we are so close to the edge now. So close to the edge in so many ways. Let's leave aside climate for 1 minute and just take up the study that came out last week that showed that around the world each year, 8.7 million people die from breathing the particulates that are produced when we burn fossil fuels. That's 1 death in 5 on this planet. It's more people than die from HIV, AIDS, and malaria and tuberculosis combined. And it's all entirely unnecessary because we don't need this stuff. We have, the good Lord gave us a very large fire burning 93 million miles away in space, and we know how to use it in order to produce the power that we need to run our lives. And we have no need anymore of burning anything. Our job should be to make sure that, with the exception of the occasional sacred fire, we're not burning anything on this earth, that the burning's happening up there on the sun, and we're taking advantage of it with solar panels and wind turbines and all the other things that can capture that energy from above. If we did, those 8.7 million people wouldn't be dying. And if we did, the climate would not be going haywire the way that it is now. We face an existential crisis as a civilization. If we don't get our act together very soon, then every scientist tells us that we're not going to be able to have civilizations like the ones we're used to having. I don't know if anybody else saw the remarkable story in the New York Times yesterday with its graphical depiction of what's begun to happen to the deep ocean currents around the world, like the Gulf Stream, the ways that they're beginning to flag, to shut down. Uh, 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 we're messing with the very basic underpinnings of the life of this planet, and we're doing it very fast. If we cannot make huge progress over this decade, then the scientists have told us we have no way of meeting the targets we set in Paris. That means we've got to stop burning things, but it means first and foremost that we've got to stop building anything new that eventually connects to a flame. It is ridiculous in 2021 to be building fossil fuel infrastructure that's supposed to last 40 or 50 years. There is no way that we can take tar sands oil and burn it for the next 40 or 50 years. On his first day in office, John Kerry, our global climate czar, told an international meeting that it was foolhardy to be building new things that connected to gas and oil because we'd have to abandon them in 10 or 20 years, that they were the definition of stranded assets. So the work that we're all doing together here is super, super important. It's a big part of this global fight. It's also a very specific and important fight for people who live where this pipeline is going to go. That's always the case because these are beautiful and important places that shouldn't be spoiled, that shouldn't run the risk of water pollution, and that definitely shouldn't be overrun by people who are breaking the agreements, whatever agreements there were made with the people who once owned all this land. It's outrageous that it's happening, and it's outrageous that it's happening in 2021 when we definitely know better. So we need to put pressure on. Who do we need to put pressure on? We've talked about some of the people, Governor Walz, the Biden administration, so on and so forth. We also need to be putting pressure on the people who supply the money that makes these things possible. Selection is a genius at this, and she's been doing incredible work on this Stop the Money Pipeline campaign. So have other stalwarts of 350 Seattle, like Alec and so on, who've been great. The people who finance Enbridge, it's the usual list of suspects. It's Wells Fargo, it's Chase, it's Citi, it's Bank of America, it's Barclays, it's Bank of Montreal. It's a handful of big pocketed banks, and what they're doing is trying to profit off the end of the world. And that's unacceptable. And we've got to be reminding them in the strongest possible terms that it's unacceptable to be doing that. And to do that, people like the GNU Collective and Honor the Earth and everybody else need the kind of resources that we're raising tonight to allow them to do it. It may seem to you like it's pointless to try and take $5,000 and put it up against $5 billion that these guys have to play with. But in fact, we can make that $5,000 work super hard. The people who are out there doing it, each one of them is worth millions of dollars in the trouble that they're able to cause, in the delays that they're able to inflict, in the publicity that they're able to create, in the message and the story that they're able to get across. We're never going to have the money that the fossil fuel industry and the finance industry have, never anywhere close. But as my dear friend, Reverend Lennox Yearwood likes to say, organized people beat organized money every time. In order to organize people to do the work they do, then you got to have a little bit of resources to work with. And that's all we're talking about tonight, a little bit of resources. So go outside your comfort zone a little bit. The planet is a mile outside its comfort zone. The planet is so far outside its comfort zone. The people who are there in Minnesota fighting the good fight on the front line tonight, let me tell you, they are outside their comfort zone. It's been cold. That polar vortex came pushing right down through where they are when the Gulf Stream collapsed because we've melted all the ice in the Arctic, you know. They got real cold, but they are real tough, and they are hanging in there and doing what needs doing. They're outside their comfort zone. So be outside yours a little bit. Uh, Whatever that means in terms of what's in your wallet, put it to work because it will return dividends of the most important kind. Alec says that we're getting close to our fundraising goal tonight. So let's put the link back up there, Selectionist, so people can see and just smash it. You know, we're talking about supporting some of the bravest people in the country right now. And if they're able to do what they need to do, then the effects of that will be felt all over the world. That's how it works. That's what the physics and chemistry of climate means. These are people who are standing in the way of 1 million barrels a day of the dirtiest oil on planet Earth. And they're doing what needs doing, and we can do what needs doing too. So I really am utterly talked out by this point. So I'm gonna go walk my dog and say goodnight to you all. But I just cannot admire enough all the work that gets done out there. Seattle and 350 Seattle have become absolute centers, absolute hub of the movement to make this planet work. And it's the proof, if there ever was needed, of how much work can be done by small groups of really talented, really committed, and really brave people. So thank you all enormously. And see you all soon once we're vaccinated and can do this in person. We really will have the big party to celebrate the big wins.
Thank you so much, Bill. Really appreciate you being here on your tour across North America tonight. Please let me know where I can get one of those amazing climate feminist sweaters. And yeah, just want to uplift what you said there about, you know, how can we support, dig deep to support some of the bravest people on the planet right now that are, you know, putting their bodies in front of excavators and locking themselves inside pipes and taking a stand to stop this thing. So thank you. Have a good walk with your dog. And I am super stoked to share that we're getting to the goal. We hit the goal. We're at $5,066 raised with 53 contributors. So that's more than half of this call. Thank you all so much. I think we're going to need to up the goal right now. But I'm going to pass it back to Rachel, who's going to walk us through some actions to hold those big banks accountable that Bill was talking about.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for everyone's words so far. And yay, we've reached our goal. If the ongoing message that we continue to hear are these banks are complicit in the destruction of Mother Earth, they're complicit in supporting these workers to come and jeopardize communities, but also are missing and murdered Indigenous women and children and men that go missing as a result of these banks funding these projects. And not getting consent to go through these treaty lands that they intend to put these pipelines through is an ongoing issue. And so what that leads to is we are going to continue to keep taking action against the Wall Street funders of Enbridge and these pipelines. And like we were saying, if you can't donate, there's so many other ways to get involved. A few weeks ago, we paid a visit to Chase branches around Seattle. And as you can see in the photo right here in front of us, everyone is demanding that they defund Line 3. And so we are inviting all of you to follow up on that action and to send a message directly to the inboxes of the CEOs and executives and board members of Wall Street Bank's funding Line 3. And the link is right here in the chat. And here in Seattle, we will be taking part in we are actually taking part in the national Defund Line 3 campaign. And so if you go here, there are ways that you can email, and it will go to the direct inboxes of these individuals. And those are things that we can do while we're on the call now, or while we're on this Zoom call, or we can do it when we hang up. But again, these are all different ways that we can get involved in continuing to send this message. As we know, Chase Bank is the largest funder of dirty fossil fuels, and we will continue to show up at their front doors until they're no longer funding the fossil fuel industry anymore. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move over to our next speaker, who is going to share some more details with us on how we can support her and her organization and the work that she's doing. So I'd like to welcome Akilah Sanders-Reed. She lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where she works as the oil-free organizer for Power Shift Network. Her work focuses on supporting the network's 90+ network member groups in building a powerful youth-led climate justice movement and resisting the Line 3 tar sands oil pipeline. Akilah is one of the Youth Climate Interveners, a group of young people who intervened as the official party in the legal process on Line 3 to represent their stories going directly to decision makers. Akilah sees stopping the pipeline projects as one of the most direct and tangible ways of taking on the climate crisis and the extractive corporate power of the fossil fuel industry at the scale that we need to. So with further ado, I welcome Akilah.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on, and thank you so much to Tasha for opening up this space with the update from what's happening on the front lines. As was said, my name's Akilah. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so I am not up north on the front lines right now, although I've been heading up there every so often to be there with folks like Tasha and Tara and the other amazing folks who are holding space. And the destruction that we're seeing up there is just so horrific. So I am so grateful to everybody being gathered here tonight and blowing through that fundraising goal. Keep it going. And to say just ground in who I am, I grew up in New Mexico in the desert. And growing up there, you know, water is at the center of the conversation because of its scarcity, not because of its abundance. So I moved to Minnesota 8.5 years ago, and it still surprises me when I'm driving around to see the amount of water in this state. And the idea that anyone would consider putting a massive 36-inch pipeline carrying tar sands oil through 200 waterways is absolutely staggering to me. That's more waterways than we have, I think, in my entire home state. So the idea that anyone is willing to jeopardize that quantity of water, especially in such an incredible place and through the 1854 and 1855 treaty territory, in and of itself should be enough to stop this thing. And obviously that's not where we're at. That's not where our decision makers are at. So I'm going to share just a couple of slides here, so you're not just looking at my face, just to give a little bit of background with the context that this has been a really long fight. Letting this load for a second. There we go. Selection, and maybe give me a thumbs up if you're able to see that. Awesome. So this is just an image of a gathering that happened pre-COVID on the shores of Gitchagami or Lake Superior up in Duluth, Minnesota. And again, people have been fighting this pipeline here in Minnesota in the regulatory and legal process since 2014. And folks have been fighting against Enbridge pipelines on the ground and in the streets for much, much longer because Enbridge has an enormous network of pipelines. Enbridge is the largest pipeline company in North America. So they have a spider web of pipelines that go not just through Minnesota, but through Wisconsin, Michigan, and many other states to the south and east of us as well. So this is just a couple of maps to kind of ground us in place. There are many ways to ground in place. I find maps helpful just in situating us. And I know y'all are out there on the West Coast. So this, of course, is Minnesota, kind of smack in the middle of the country. And you can see here in the map to the left, all of the crude oil transportation routes through Minnesota. Some of those are trains, most of them are pipeline. And that big red line through the middle is Enbridge's mainline corridor that has 6 and 7 pipelines running through Minnesota. So this isn't a pipeline that is bringing oil to otherwise lonely refineries here in Minnesota. We are a tar sands superhighway through some of the most beautiful places in northern Minnesota. And this image over here to the right, that zoomed in on that piece of northern Minnesota, shows that although Enbridge has been saying that this is a replacement for an old line of theirs that they built back in the 60s, most of the route in Minnesota is new. This is pipeline construction is going through and clear cutting through areas where there aren't any oil pipelines right now, and opening up a whole new corridor where if this is actually built, we could see Enbridge try to resituate their old lines 1, 2, 4, some of those other pipelines that Tasha was mentioning. And originally, Enbridge had actually proposed to have 2 pipelines on that new route. The other one, of course, being line 3 for tar sands, and the other being the Sandpiper pipeline from North Dakota carrying Bakken oil. They both would have been in that new corridor, but back in 2015, a grassroots all-volunteer group called Friends of the Headwaters in northern Minnesota filed a lawsuit insisting there needed to be an environmental impact statement. If you want to run some massive oil pipelines through northern Minnesota, you would think this is a no-brainer, but it had never been done before. And a court ruled in their favor. And after that happened, Enbridge canceled the Sandpiper pipeline. So we know that we can beat pipelines in Minnesota. We know that when Enbridge sees the tides turning against them, as they're seeing right now, that they can pull these projects and cancel them. And speaking of canceled projects, Line 3 is one of the last big tar sands mega pipelines that's been proposed. Go back a couple of years, there were 5 coming out of the tar sands up in Canada. Energy East, Northern Gateway, and most recently Keystone XL have all been canceled. So we know that this is the end of the tar sands era. We know that. The question is how fast we get there. And we know that the tar sands extraction and the kind of destruction that you see on the left-hand side of the screen here is constrained by how many pipelines they have to move that oil out to the coast, out to Tidewater, to global oil markets. So when these pipelines get stopped, that oil stays in the ground. And I think about Keystone and the just long and incredible fight that folks have had against that pipeline. And, over the course of those 10 years, as Bill Mckibben was saying earlier, at the beginning of that, everybody said, this is inevitable that this gets built. There's no way we're going to win this fight. And over the course of those 10 years, the facts about pipelines and about tar sands and the rules really fundamentally didn't change that much. What changed was what was seen as inevitable. And so now we see, Obama originally and now Biden canceling this project, canceling Keystone, because it is inevitable that we are going to move away from this horrible, dirty, extractive, colonial kind of oil. And we need to see that same kind of decision around Line 3. And the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which of course is the other enormous tar sands pipeline that's been proposed up in Canada that I didn't know, especially all of y'all out in Seattle are very familiar with. So both of those. And I got to know this fight in particular by being part of a group called the Youth Climate Interveners. It's a group of 13 young people who came together to represent ourselves in this legal process starting back in 2017. We understand that these systems are not built in our favor. We understand that these systems were never built for us. And we understood that these decision makers never had to hear from the public. So many of the decision makers in this process set up public hearings that they don't have to be at. They delegate so much of this decision-making power, and it gets filtered through finer and finer filters before it actually gets to them in the form of some really dry and uninteresting briefing papers. And we wanted to go into those spaces and we wanted to represent ourselves without a lawyer, without legal counsel, and bring our stories directly to the people who had to make these decisions. And so that's what we did. We learned the regulatory process and went and were able to testify in front of some of the decision makers making the choices about the Line 3 permits. We were able to bring in expert witnesses that represented the kind of wisdom that we thought these kinds of decisions should be based on, climate scientists and Indigenous elders. And we were able to cross-examine Enbridge's experts. So I can say from firsthand experience, they don't know what they're talking about. This pipeline is built on a pile of falsehoods. And I can say, with confidence that all of the facts and the law are against this project. The Minnesota Department of Commerce, our state agency that is in these processes to represent the public interest, which is a weird lineup, but the Minnesota Department of Commerce has actually adamantly opposed this project since 2017. The refineries here in Minnesota don't need this oil. And, Bill was talking about stranded assets earlier. It's going to take Enbridge 15 years for this pipeline to pay for itself. The agreements they have with the oil shippers and their finance structure means that they are going to operate this for at least 15 years in order to just pay themselves back. So we know that we don't need fossil fuels for that long. We know we don't need fossil fuels now. And we know, as was mentioned at the beginning of this call, that if this is built, the tar sands that would unlock would cause a climate impact equivalent to 50 coal plants. No one is building 50 coal plants in 2021. And right now, the youth climate interveners, along with the Red Lake Nation, the White Earth Nation, the Mille Lacs Band, grassroots groups like Friends of the Headwaters are in court saying that the permits for this pipeline were granted illegally. And yet Enbridge is constructing. This is another picture of some of the wild rice up in northern Minnesota that the tribal nations are in court fighting to protect. Their court appeals at the state level here in Minnesota with the Minnesota Court of Appeals and at the federal level. These are just a couple of maps. Again, another way of visualizing what the impact this pipeline would have if it is fully constructed. On the left, you see a map of the wild rice lakes and rivers in Minnesota. In the upper right, you see a map with the Mississippi River, which this pipeline would cross twice right near the headwaters when it's still so tiny and upstream of so many people's drinking water. And down there on the right, there's a map from Honor the Earth with a variety of different, the treaty territory that's protected under the 1855 and 1854 treaties and some of the other, again, another map of wild rice there. So just another visual for the destruction that this pipeline is bringing. And again, as everybody knows, and as everybody's already said on this call, construction has started. There's a picture here of a tree sit that happened, some of the construction that's happening in northern Minnesota. When I'm up there, you see these truckloads of trees going by, truckload after truckload. And it is cold, there is COVID. There are workers coming in from all over the country to build this pipeline, more workers than the populations of so many of these northern Minnesota towns. And again, this is happening while there are lawsuits saying that the permits for this pipeline should never have been granted. Oral argument for those lawsuits is coming up on March 23rd, and we're expecting a decision sometime in June, which again is when Enbridge intends to be done by, because they know that if they have this pipeline in the ground, they're likely to just get a slap on the wrist rather than instructions to not build at all. So just to back up what everybody else, especially Tasha, has already been saying on this call, the most important thing that anyone can do right now is to, if you're able to get to the front lines in a COVID safe and self-sufficient way, to do that, and otherwise to do exactly what this call is doing and send resources their way, because folks like Tasha and Tara are the ones who are coordinating the resistance on the ground to actually get in the way of this kind of destruction, because we know the courts aren't going to do that for us. We know the regulatory processes aren't built in our favor, and we have to do that ourselves. The other thing that's been mentioned on this call, of course, is putting pressure on President Biden. He revoked the permits for Keystone XL. He can revoke the Federal Army Corps permits that were granted in the final days of the Trump administration for Line 3. And we also need him to do that for DAPL, of course, and there's a deadline for that coming up in April. So really, we're in the critical weeks here and the critical months to stop this thing. And I want to note that, I am so grateful that the polar vortex has taken itself back to Canada, and also note that as it gets warmer here in Minnesota, the rivers are starting to thaw. And when those rivers thaw, that means that Enbridge can drill under them. So as things get warmer here, we are preparing for that. We are preparing for Enbridge to try to shove this pipeline under the Mississippi River. So really, this is the time we need Biden to step in and revoke those permits. We need people on the ground, and we need resources to support the folks on the front lines. There was already a slide up earlier, but just a quick reminder of some of the folks that you can follow on all the social medias. I'm not cool enough to be on Instagram, but they're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. The GNU Collective, Stop Line 3, the Rise Coalition, the Minoman Protector Camp, Red Lake PD Camp, and of course, Camp McGeezy that's holding it down there on the Fond du Lac Reservation. That's everything from me. So I will pass it back to our wonderful facilitators, and thank you again to everybody for being here. Thank you to Tasha for speaking and for holding it down so incredibly powerfully up on the front lines. And I appreciate the opportunity to just share a little bit of the background and some of the facts and maps here about the pipeline to get everybody situated and what exactly this looks like.
Thank you so much, Akilah, and thank you so much for the work that you guys are doing. You know, we talk about, you know, passing the baton and seeing the work that, you know, so many of you young adults are doing now is, and youth that are at these camps and on these front lines and doing this work. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Tasha, thank you for everything that you're doing and holding ground down there at line 3, and Bill, thank you for your contributions tonight and just all of the words that you guys have shared. This has been a great learning experience, and it's always a great one to really see how much our Indigenous communities are on the front lines of a lot of these climate fights, and you know, the teachings and things that are going into, you know, protecting these sacred lands. It's not just for our communities, it's for the world, it's for everybody. And so it's just great to see, you know, this work being done, because at the end of the day, we know we're gonna stop the fossil fuel industry, and we're gonna stop the flow of, you know, tar sands. And just again, thank you all. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back over to my friend Selectiona, and we're gonna talk some more about the fundraiser and how well we're doing, and we'll go from there.
Well, yeah, thank you, Akilah. Really inspiring and helpful to situate us. And wow, like it's, yeah, really incredible how long this fight has been going on and all of the different ways that people are resisting. So we have a bit of an update from the fundraiser. We blew past the goal to $5,715. We also changed the goal. So you can see now we are 50% of the way to 10,000. So we invite you to continue giving. If you've given already and feel like you can't anymore, now would be a great opportunity to text this link to 3 friends or put it in an email to 3 friends. We will continue to boost this out on 350 Seattle and Mazaska Talks' social media and emails, and kind of bring our community to really get $10,000. So then we can, you know, donate 5,000 to Tasha and Camp McGeezy, and 5,000 to GNU Collective, which Tara is the leader of, and really support, you know, all of the amazing work that they're doing on the ground. We also, you know, understand that donating is not the only way to get involved, as we've heard. So, you know, folks are calling for solidarity actions on the Biden administration, on the big banks. There's so many people here in Washington state that probably haven't heard of the Line 3 pipeline that we can educate. As Akilah said, there's a call for folks, if you're able to, and kind of have skills to offer, to go to the front lines. And we have a short form that you can fill out here to plug into kind of solidarity efforts from Seattle and from Washington. So you can fill that out. Should take 1 minute, and we'll follow up with you on ways that you can get involved. Just a quick reminder, we've got the swag here on the next slide. So if you've donated, you're automatically entered in to win this. If you don't want something and you win it, you can decline. We'll be in touch with you first, but stay tuned, so you might get some emails with swag info. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Aki to walk us through our last action of the night.
Okay, so today, where can everyone hear me? Can that sound okay? So today we're going to be calling Marianne Lake, who's the CEO of commercial lending at Chase Bank. That's the branch of Chase that lends to destructive fossil fuel companies like Enbridge. So we know, of course, that she's not working at this hour, so she has a voicemail box set up. So we wanted to take a few minutes to call her and flood her mailbox so that when she does get into work tomorrow morning, there's hundreds of messages urging Chase to stop backing line 3. I am going to do a practice call following the script that's up on the screen, and then it's your turn. All right, let's do it. Okay. It's ringing.
Hi, you reached the office of Marianne Lake. To reach her, please email her at marianne.lake@jpmorgan.com, or you can email lake_admin@jpmorgan.com. Thank you and have a safe day. Record your message at the tone. When you're finished, hang up or press pound.
Keep this coming up. Hi, my name is Aki, and I'm calling from Seattle to urge Chase Bank to stop financing Enbridge. Enbridge is plowing ahead with construction of the Line 3 tar sands pipeline in the midst of a pandemic and climate crisis, despite powerful Indigenous-led opposition. I urge Chase to respect Indigenous rights, protect our climate, and cut ties with Enbridge immediately. Thank you. That's it. Done and done.
Thank you, Aki, and thank you for making it look so easy. So, we want to really flood Marianne's phone voicemail box with messages so that when she comes into work tomorrow morning, she's getting hundreds of notes, telling her to not finance Enbridge, to cut ties with Line 3. So we're going to take a moment now. The phone number and the call script are in the chat, and make a phone call. And then you can save this number, put it in your phone, and call tomorrow or maybe on Monday. And who knows, you might get Marianne's assistant or perhaps Marianne herself. You can have a live conversation. And we do know that kind of making these calls, coming together and pressuring these financial companies really does have an impact. We're seeing it with policies from banks rolling out, certain types of projects and fossil fuel sectors. The Trans Mountain Pipeline recently requested that its insurance companies be kept private because they were facing so much pressure and insurers were dropping the project. So every call counts. And this is, a great way to take action, from all the way here in Seattle. So hopefully as I'm talking, you're tuning me out and you're calling Marianne yourself. Yay, Scott, thanks for leaving a message. I think we'll have a few more seconds here before we move to close. Ooh, okay. So we're gonna close out with a song, thanks to Bex with the People's Echo. Got it on the next slide there. And we'll send around the number too, so you can keep calling. So Bex Lips is a queer and non-binary social worker, facilitator, expressive artist, creative spirit, and community builder. They're a song catcher with the People's Echo, a collective song community that energizes and brings joy to interwoven movements for social and climate justice by sharing songs that inspire change and connect people to themselves, each other, and our planet. And over to you, Bex. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Selekshana, and I'm just humbled to be in the same virtual space with all these incredible activists. Thank you everyone so much for your work and for your contributions. My name is Bex with the People's Echo. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. And I would like to share a song with you. I encourage everyone to sing along because you're on mute, so no one can hear you. Doesn't matter if you think you're a good or bad singer, you're beautiful. This song was caught by Hillary Sanders, one of our song catchers, and it is really a message for all of the people and institutions that are still upholding the fossil fuel industry. And this, I like to think of this song as casting a spell for their demise. There are two parts to it, and really you'll catch on, I think, very quickly. It's time for them to move up or step aside. So this song is called Move Up, and the lyrics are in the chat. The eyes of our children are upon you. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. We'll change this course with or without you. Won't let up. Won't let up. The eyes of our children are upon you. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. We'll change this course with or without you. Won't let up. Won't let up. The eyes of our children are upon you. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. We'll change this course with or without you. Won't let up. Won't let up. The eyes of our children are upon you. It is time to wake up. Time to wake up. We'll change this course with or without you. Won't let up. Won't let up. Move up or step aside. 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 You gotta move up now, or step aside. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. Move up or step aside. 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 Thank you, everyone.
Wow, thank you. That was beautiful. I invite folks to check out the People's Echo SoundCloud so you can bathe yourself in that gorgeous music anytime. And follow them on Facebook to learn about song teach-ins. And with that, we are at a close. I can officially report that we raised $5,965. So, thank you, everybody. Yeah, and invite you to continue donating, sharing the link, and signing up to stay involved. And I'll pass it over to Rachel to.
Yeah, and just again, love your energy, Bex. It's so great to see y'all. It's thank you. It was a great close out and feeling so great and reaching our goal. Thank you to everyone that's on this call tonight, or this Zoom. I'm still calls, Zoom, seeing, but it takes all of us, and just being on here and sharing the energy and seeing what we were capable of in less than an hour is amazing. And I want to thank all of the tech people. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that made so much of this seem like such an easy transition tonight. And I just want to thank all of them that it took to make this happen. And Selection, I want to thank you for all of the amazing work that you put in to make this come together tonight and allowing me to be a part of this. And everyone that's on here, it's going to take all of us to stop line 3 and to protect our communities and water everywhere. And so we do encourage you to sign up and to get involved locally or go to the front lines, and we'll follow up with all of you. And we'll provide you with the tools and the support to help you organize your community or to get plugged in, so that we can defund line 3 and get rid of this pipeline. And again, thank you for all of the time that you took on here. There are so many ways to contribute, not just through money. It could be through the various ways that we were told tonight and the links that are in the chat. So thank you all. And this work continues, and so it takes all of us because it's for all of us. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Folks are welcome to come off mute and say bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you all.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Okay, I think I'm gonna close us out here officially. Good night.